Just over 5 years ago, Harry Styles dropped a solo debut that absolutely no one saw coming, especially from a guy who had closed the door on his role as lead heartthrob in pop juggernaut One Direction only 18 months earlier. Harry Styles was a timeless, oddly genre-less album that sounded vaguely like a pop collection from the early 1970s, and like nothing else released that year. Regardless, it was a hit and gave the young singer the runway to find his sea legs as a solo artist, and more importantly, a clean slate he could follow with anything he wanted. That ended up being 2019's more defining and definitive Fine Line album, which could be considered his true debut, spawning massive singles like Watermelon Sugar and a blockbuster, If Pandemic Delayed, tour that segues directly into Harry's House, which is very much a continuation and progress. Which isn't to say it's more of the same. Harry's House is a bit more intimate and less stadium-sized than its predecessor. Lyrically, it's heavier and more serious in places, not surprising after everything that's happened in the 2.5 years since Fine Line dropped just before the pandemic. On a related note, the number of contributing musicians is also much smaller. The album was produced and co-written almost entirely with longtime collaborators Kid Harpoon, Jessie Ware, Shawn Mendes, Florence and the Machine, and Tyler Johnson, Sam Smith, Cam, and they played most of the instruments. After a peppy start with the horn-speckled music in a sushi restaurant and the 80s flavored late-night talking, the album eases into a loose, unhurried groove, mixing up the moods and tempos but never getting too relaxed, just when you're leaning back, a song like the effortlessly joyful lead. The songs are largely about romance and sex, but turn darker when seemingly addressed to specific people or situations. Daylight is loaded with drug references, Matilda is for someone with a troubled family history, and The Gorgeous Boyfriends, premiered at Coachella last month, is for a friend in a toxic relationship. Styles sings You Love a Fool Who Knows Just How to Get Under Your Skin, accompanied only. But it's not all serious, either. There's also the laid-back, Timberlakeian funk of cinema, the Beatlesy Grapejuice and a lovely ballad called Little Freak. 6.5 years after Harry Styles took his final bow with One Direction, it's possible to imagine a sizable portion of his audience. And at 28, no longer so young, he's built himself an enviable solo career that Harry's House goes a long way toward furthering.